Hi, I'm Nan Simonson. I'm the author of Aging Powerfully, the point of which is that we can age with power if we accept and embrace lifestyle as medicine. And today I wanted to share my, well, not just feelings about, but my holding in high esteem someone whom we've just lost. Dr. John McDougall passed away in his sleep just a few weeks ago, and I am going to share my terrific 12 of his quotes. He was very well known for his quick snippets of information. And recently I saw Rip Esselstyn uh, offer a tribute to him, and he began with 10 of Dr. McDougall's quotes. And then I heard Chef AJ interview Dr. Peter Rogers and Dr. Rogers, and that was quite an interview. It was just a couple of days ago. You could find that on YouTube. And he explained the statement that he made, and that is, and Dr. Peter Rogers is, I think he is not easily swayed. He is really brilliant, kind of quirky brilliant, but nonetheless, he's a scientist and a physician, and stands behind science, or science stands behind or is behind everything he speaks about. And he said that he believed that Dr. McDougall was the best physician that ever lived. Isn't that something? In other words, he held him in extremely high esteem. And rather than my explaining or even trying to summarize why he said that, it would be an interview you might want to see. And he, near the end, gave a few of his quotes because he's famous for his quotes. And when I list my first few, you'll see that this is something that almost anyone could repeat as a Dr. McDougalism. And one of the reasons that he meant a lot to me is that when I began in the whole food plant-based space as a lifestyle medical coach with a lifestyle medical practice, I was coming off of a omnivore diet, and had just gotten my certification as a health coach, and was looking for a way to ameliorate sudden numbers that were troubling, pre-diabetes, high cholesterol, blood pressure that was rising, a gallbladder they wanted to take out, on and on. I was, as I call it, looking down that black hole, because you begin that stuff, they start medicating. Before you know it, your bag of medications are growing bigger and you're feeling crummier the whole way. And I believe that. And I said no to every specialist I was referred to, because I was going to do this with food. And every specialist, including the cardiologist, said food has very little to do with this. Isn't that insulting? They were going to take my gallbladder, which is a great gallbladder now, and it would have been gone because of that kind of thinking. So when I decided to go plant-based, one of the first things I had to do was get rid of my fears. And one thing, even though the book is only partially memoir, and then the rest a 10-letter, the word powerfully, acronym for lifestyle modalities that can help us live longer and better. I had to get rid of my food fears because, as I say in my book, I had bulimia for decades and decades. And one of the things that would set me off was a starch. I thought, man, if I eat a starch, that's the beginning of a binge, because after all, if you're having starches, you're binging. That was all the way down from Atkins. And the starch solution, which Dr. Rogers highlighted as his favorite of the 1618 nationally recognized books of Dr. McDougall. He says the starch solution is still a compendium of rationale that cannot be refuted. And that book helped me see that I could fill my plate with starches. And it wasn't a binge, it was a way to get satisfied, full. And I said it probably the last time I saw you, if you've watched my series on the PowerPoints. Carbohydrates, nature's whole food plant-based starches are nature's antidepressants, appetite suppressants, and they feed our microbiome to the degree that it actually makes our whole body healthier. So with that book and the understanding that these foods and being full on them was a blessing in terms of taking us to health and allowing us to feel comfortable with what we eat, that was the end of my food fears. And that book and Dr. McDougall made a difference. So what are my terrific 12? I could call them my dearest dozen or my terrific 12. I'll share that with you. You can think about any that you know of, and you can comment on this YouTube video that you particularly like of Dr. McDougall's, or you can even personalize it to your understanding or your belief system as to why that makes sense to you. I have a Tuesday afternoon, 1:45 on the in the Pacific time zone group that I meet with, the PowerPoints. And after this, we'll have a conversation and do exactly what I'm saying you can consider. And that is either comment or personalize it. The number one that people quote at the snap of a finger is people love to hear good news about their bad habits. My husband can say that without any hesitation. When somebody says, yes, but da 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 da, he won't confront somebody. But as we're walking away, or when I'm telling a story about anything that people are justifying, he'll say, yeah, people love to hear good news about their bad habits. That's a McDougalism. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. He talks about that all the time. And when I heard that, I thought, I don't know about that. But you know what? To a degree, he's right. If I put on a few pounds on a holiday, it's because I'm eating what I would otherwise eat, but someone's loaded it with grease and oil, because you can't monitor that when you're traveling. I get home and I keep the grease and the oil and the fatty foods out, and there the pounds go. It's predictable. And there are healthier fats like your seeds and your nuts. And I do have flax and chia every morning with my homemade yogurt, soy yogurt. Thank you, Stephanie Vale. And my fresh berries. That's become my breakfast. And there's fat in soy, even though the soy yogurt is made out of soy milk. Soy is 30% fat, but that's okay. That's a legume that has healthy fats. There's avocado that has healthy fats. I won't go out of my way to eat a half or a whole avocado. My husband has a whole one every day. It helps him keep his weight on. And he's healthier than ever because of that. But what he is decrying especially are the processed oils and the addition of oil in foods, in recipes that are just not necessary. I made 3 things yesterday from previous recipes I've had, all of which had add 3 tablespoons oil, 4 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. And I thought to myself, if I followed every one of these recipes, now think about yourself. If I followed every one of these recipes that start the recipe or end the recipe with add olive oil, add this oil, saute in that oil, 2, 3, 4, 5 tablespoons. You add that up in one day alone, we could be adding 2 to 4 or 5 or 600 calories more in just oil. What is the nutritional value of that? I'll again go back and applaud Dr. McDougall for that. The Fat you eat is the fat you wear. And it is something that goes beyond just the looks of the fat or carrying it around. It's also nutritionally dilute compared to food that has that fat. Give me a whole food, plant-based. Number 3, it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. It was his favorite answer to anything. And now when people say, whoa, I can't believe you're 73, I'll say it's the food. Yes, I exercise every day. Yes, I do those lifestyle as medicine pillars of prioritizing sleep, of stress management, of embracing community, again, of movement, of whole food, plant-based. But it's really the food that hits us at a cellular level with every bite that we take. And we do that all day long. Number 4, good health is about what you eat. Some people think that it's everything else we do, and the food, well, it's going to keep you alive, so it doesn't matter. Good health is about the food we eat. Number 5, the human diet is a starch-based diet. Number 6 further explains that. All large populations of healthy, trim people throughout variable human history have obtained the bulk of their calories from starch. No one could prove that wrong. We're talking about the largest population of healthy, trim people throughout history, and it's 100% true. 7, people are overfed but undernourished. Oh my gosh, is that becoming more true by the day? We as a society now have hit 70 to 75% of the population measuring overweight, 40% of the population obese. That's just not healthy. It is, and that's not a judgment, and we're not talking appearances, we're talking about metabolic health. And we're we're overfed and we're undernourished. One of the things that most of us who are whole food, plant-based, avoiding additional excess calorically dense foods like avocado and nuts, even though you can have some of that, but too much of that is, well, it's tipping the balance of nutritional density or caloric density. But overfed does not equal highly nourished. As a matter of fact, we see that our chronic diseases are rising on a yearly basis, and we're getting heavier, we're getting sicker, and it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. Number 8, medicine is about healing. It's not about warfare. And if you have a chance, listen to the story that Dr. Peter Rogers tells on the interview with Chef AJ. It was just 3-4 days ago, as he explains what Dr. McDougall has gone through his entire life, especially in his younger years as a doctor, with the proof behind his words, and yet the being defiled by pharmaceutical industry, by the profitable specialists, cardiologists, orthopedists, gastroenterologists, who wanted him to just stop talking. In other words, let us do our work, let us do our specialty. And he said to them, you don't have to do any of that if we can just make the people well. And we can do that with food. But it wasn't profitable. And he put it that way. And it sounds cynical and harsh and judgmental. But the truth is, he went through fire with that claim. He was right. And yet he lost so much financially because of that fight. He should have been honored for his willingness to take on the big time players and to the end. I heard an interview with him and Chef AJ 2.5 weeks before he passed, And he was talking about the future, but he was also still talking about all the people who told him that he was wrong, and what he offers now on his website, what's still there, that is free for anyone that goes and wants to get directives on weight management, on healthy eating. And here's some of his previous talks. So he believed that doctors were waging warfare, and quite often it was chemical warfare, surgical warfare, on things instead of working on healing before the fact. And that's where he put his time and energy. Number 9, you can't override your genes, but you can influence how they express themselves. I said to somebody the other day, I said, I have horses at the starting gate ready to run in my body, and I'm not going to pull the lever. And what I meant by that is my dad died at 62, talking one minute, boom, dead the next, cardiovascular disease from a heart attack. My mother got lymphoma in her 50s. My brother, by 1 year older, got lymphoma in his 50s. Breast cancer on my mother's side, it just on and on. So the illness was there. My body, I'm pretty sure it's really trying to get lymphoma. And it may win someday, but I'm doing everything I can to keep it at bay. And so, yes, as they say, our genes pull, or our genes load the gun, and epigenetics, in other words, how we live, pull the trigger. And Dr. McDougall says you can't override your genes, but you could certainly influence how they express themselves. So consider what's possible in your body based on your genetic history, and then you decide what you're going to do to stand in its way, at least the things that you don't want. The most powerful tool you have to change your health and your life is your fork. Isn't that great? Number 11, you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. Here all the time. Well, I'll just add exercise, exercise, exercise. I exercise every day. Every morning I'm out first thing in the morning. It's anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, and that's cycling because I have some messed up cartilage on one of my knees. But that didn't stop me from exercising every evening. My husband and I walk for a half an hour. And it has nothing to do with weight management. I never think of it that way. I think of it for metabolic health, because it helps lower insulin levels and blood sugar. I think about it because I love to get out and spend time with my husband just chatting about the day. I think about it because it just feels so good. It feels so good to move. I think the more you move, the more you want to move. But I never think of it as a way to maintain a healthy weight. I don't think of it that way. If you eat a Snicker bar, it's going to take 2 hours, 3 hours to work off that Snicker bar. That's way too much trouble. So I don't think about it that way. 11, you can't, just talked about that. You can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. And then number 12, the food I love this. The food you eat can either be your safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Again, the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. These quotes emphasize the importance of diet over health interventions and the risks associated with consuming animal-based products. That's Dr. McDougall. Okay, that's all I have to say. I hope that he is still inspiring you to this day. His quotes will go on forever. His legacy, I think, now will get even stronger, because well, I shouldn't even invite you to do this. Well, Dr. Rogers did. He referenced Dr. McDougall's Wikipedia page, which I've never looked at. I don't need to. I know who the man is. And man, he's taken it. in a bad way on that Wikipedia page. And Dr. Rogers' simple explanation was he ruffled too many feathers with way too much money. And this is their way of silencing his influence and strengthening their monetary gains. And I believe that. So I'm with you, Dr. McDougall. I feel the same way. Money has way, way, way too much influence in our country, and it's not like that in every country. With the way people eat, the way they live, and if you haven't read it yet, consider The Starch Solution. And I hope that you're having a great day. I know I am. Subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and thank you for taking your time to join me today. Thank you. Bye-bye. I have to, just a moment.